All right, so first up on the show is Gasper Cifuentes. So, Gasper, the real estate market, a lot of people are talking about how great the real estate market is. That things are growing really, really fast. But we also hear some grumblings out there about things like inventory, costs, new home construction where people are cutting corners. Tito, we've talked a little bit about how, some of the professions are it's like they're being expected to cut corners on things, cheapen costs and stuff. So everything's not rosy out there. So what's your take on what's going on here in the San Antonio area?
Well, to fully explain that, we really have to go back to the beginning. And this all kind of started with the pandemic. We saw how the Fed decided to spur sales by lowering and cutting the interest rates really, really low, historic lows. We got down to the twos, and that was just completely unheard of. But it spurred this purchase power and this wave of buyer excitement came through the market. That, on top of the lockdown, keeping people at home, kept them from their normal vacations. It kept them from utilizing money in specific ways, like going to the movies, going to dinner, just buying all these extra things that we normally enjoyed on a regular basis, found us stuck at home, and those that were still making money wound up with a whole lot of money sitting at home by themselves. With all of that money, now they realized, you know what, I can either do some projects and get some things fixed here around the house, or I can sell this house and I can move into something else. With historic lows, it was the perfect storm. So they created this momentum in the market initially, and it started. Now, one of the things that went on was obviously on the other end of the spectrum, you have them shutting down mills, like our steel mills and our wood mills, and now the production rate for new homes can't continue to develop. And when you have this imbalance, now you have a shortage. And that shortage starts to drive the market price of homes up because obviously there's scarcity in the market. When you have that scarcity and those market prices start to go up, we also see some of the things that were causing that. And one of those things that was causing that was these hedge funds were going out and purchasing bulk properties. They would go out and they would buy big lots of properties. They'd find 5 or 10 or 15, and they would purchase them all. And when they would purchase them, they would buy them at an accelerated price, $10,000, $15,000 to $30,000 over market value. They would do that so that they wouldn't have any competition. They had lots of money, and they could do so, not like the average buyer. So when you see them buying 10, 15, 30 different houses in a specific area, then that drives the market value up to everyone's home, because now all of these homes being sold become comparables when you do an appraisal. So now everyone's home value starts to go up, which is
not necessarily actual value, though, right? It's like a surge. It's not reality.
A pseudo value.
There you go, pseudo value.
And so you have these pseudo values now continuously moving up the chain. So everyone is looking at this and saying, hey, I'm making a lot of money on my property. And now you have a normal seller that's out there that says, you know what? I can make $50,000 more on my house than what I purchased it for 3 years ago. I'm going to sell and buy something else. So sure, they go ahead and they sell. They do make that 50, but when they go to buy something else, it's $50,000 more in the market. Wow. So you really don't get anything, equitably, transferable over there. And what started to happen was you start to outpace the normal median wage of the earner in specific areas. So when you outpace the wage earner, now you've outpaced your average buyer. So what we see now is we've basically peaked at this point. We've peaked at this point, and it's starting to come down. And if you look, I sent you an email with a bunch of different...
So this is good news.
This is actually good news.
Okay.
It's a rough run to get to this point, but we're heading into what I believe is probably the beginning of the correction. So we've turned the corner, I believe. We're starting to head back downstream. And when everyone sees these prices dropping, I don't want them to think, oh, this is a horrible thing. All these prices are dropping. You just don't want prices to drop really fast, because when these prices drop too fast, that's when you have a crash. But if they come down gradually and everyone adjusts appropriately over the next 12, maybe 18 months, then everyone's going to be looking pretty good, because now average Joe buyer can afford to buy a house again. And when you have that median wage earner in an area that can afford to buy that house again, he's no longer renting. You see, because when these other like iBuyers and different programs and hedge funds started buying up all these properties, they didn't buy these properties just to resell them at these inflated prices. They bought them to go out and turn regular Joe Blow buyer into a renter.
Right.
And they did. They did that. They effectively did that. Now they're charging these outrageous rental prices. And I saw it in my own rentals that I manage. I saw a lot of these rentals that normally would be gone in 2 or 3 days of being on the market. They were there for 2 or 3 months of being on the market. It was taking a long time to move these. That's because the market got flooded with all of these rentals. And now not so many people willing to move or make a change in that respect. And so you have this technically kind of like a high-tech type of slumlord that's out there that's just now waging war on the buyer and making them become a renter because they have no choice at this point because of the policies in place.
If your options are limited on what you can actually move into, and you can't get new construction because of the huge weight and all of that, then that's a problem. And then this high-tech slumlord thing is an interesting phrase that I think Tito can weigh in a little bit too, with expectations of when you have these types of guys and they're directing some of the trades on, this is what we're going to pay you. We're not going to pay you fair rate. We're going to pay you less than fair rate, but we're going to give you all this work. And now the quality of the work can drop too. So not only do you have less selections when it comes to rentals, but you also have a lower quality home that they're moving into.
Yes. And Tito and I were actually speaking before the show, and one of the things that we both agreed on and that we saw is that we've gotten to where like people in services are looking for only the things that they can't live without. They just can't live without. When before you had this incorporated buyer that would look into things like, okay, this is an upgrade for me in my home. I could actually afford to do this today because the market was fairly stable. I believe we're moving into a point right now where it looks like the elections are coming up here in the midterms, and it's probably going to swing to the right. That's my personal opinion on it. And when you lock up the government in that type of lame duck situation, you find stability because now no one can do anything.
There we go.
And it's from that stability that markets can start to recover because it becomes more predictable. Okay, you don't have certain people, running back and forth saying, well, I want this and I want that. You have everyone saying, well, no one's going to get anything they want. That makes a predictable market. That's good for small business.
Yeah, we want slower change, right? And we want less oversight from, extreme oversight by government entities that don't really know what's going on the ground level.
Yeah, they're disconnected. There's a huge disconnect. They think they know what we want because they're listening to a very small minority of people saying, these are social issues and we need these fixed. And I'm sorry, but those normally run completely opposite of what's good for the whole. Mm-hmm. Because if I can provide a great service, it should not be based upon the color of my skin or my sexual preference or any of these other things. These are things that really don't need to be involved in anybody's business. Yes. I should be looked at and judged by the great job that I do. Exactly. And if I do a poor job, then they have the right to go to someone else. And that's just really the way it should work in small business. But we don't get that sometimes. Sometimes you see this plug where it's like, well, you have to be a specific color, or you have to be a specific race, or you have to enjoy specific things that agree with my opinions for me to believe in you as a professional. And that's completely ridiculous. It has nothing to do with business. And it really needs to be separated, and people need to start looking at it more from the perspective of, let me look at the testimonials of this individual and how well they do their job. Are they competent in what they do? Can I trust them to get the job done? That's really where it comes down to.
Correct. That's the market.
Business. That's the market.
That's the market.
That's us, and that's what we provide. And if we don't provide that, then yes, we need to make the change. And it shouldn't be based off of anything social. It just needs to be based off our professionalism.
I'm with you on that. So, Gasper, if people want to reach out to you, how do they do that?
They can go to our website at www.sanantoniosfinestrealty.com. And I'm hiring, So if you'd like to fill out an online application, you can go to www.safr.team, or you can call me direct at 210-332-0161.
Awesome. Thanks for that.
Yeah.